Welcome to another episode of Duck It. Today we host my friend. Finally, I get to have him on the show. I've been waiting a few months to have you on the show. It's Iyad, founder and CEO of Penny, an old colleague, but really today I'm hosting you as my friend. Really great to have you. How are you?
Thanks, Chris. Happy to be here. Co-founder, to be corrected.
Yes, sorry. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Co-founder. Now, speaking of co-founding, how's it going? How's Penny? How's the journey so far? I'm privy to a lot of it, but
Yeah.
tell us about the journey so far. How's it going?
Yeah. So far, you've been pretty close to it. Well, it's very, very exciting. I think it's exciting to first solve a big problem, solve a complex problem, and figure things out and go through the process of building a startup. I think we're lucky to be solving a very sexy problem. Who wouldn't want to solve procurement?
Yeah, it's so funny. It's so funny. I always wanted to ask you that. Like, I don't think I've ever asked you that, by the way. Like, why procurement? Like, of all the things that you could have, come up with, and I think you framed it perfectly. Why did you decide to pick the sexiest one of them all?
Right. Like, who wouldn't want to solve procurement? Everybody's like, oh my God, this is the coolest thing.
Yeah.
I want to procurement. So look, I think it's weird, right? Because what seems so dull to other people could be really exciting to you, and that is weird, but it's really part of the fun. To us, it's super exciting. Look, I've never anyone who knows me very well and worked with me for a while, I've never been much of a procurement guy. It's not an industry that I always understood. But here's what I understand. I understand running a business. I understand spend management, and the person who really understands procurement is actually our co-founder, Majid.
Yeah.
And Majid was the guy who came up with the procurement side of the business, or actually he recognized the pain because he was in procurement, and you could spend time working with Majid on Penny as well. So he knows procurement in and out. But the problem is exciting for us. What's really exciting to me is what procurement could do and how can we solve this problem, and spending management side of it.
I think it's, all jokes aside, I think it's super interesting the way society has kind of decided to focus on different things. So, I mean, we've been building companies for, most of our career. And if you ask me how much money we're going to make in the month of December, I can probably tell you pretty close, with a margin of error of probably 10 to 15%. But I have a really good idea of how much money is coming into the business next month. If you ask me what my expected spending is in the month of December, outside of probably salaries, I haven't a clue. Right?
Yep.
And so I think societies and the business community in general, especially entrepreneurs, we've been very focused on resources coming in, but we haven't been very focused on understanding what it costs to run our business and how we need to optimize that as we go, which fundamentally can change a business. And why do you think that is?
I think if you look at the CRM industry, for example, like if we compare revenue with expenses, your revenue is well managed and well consolidated by some sort of a CRM system.
Yeah.
And if you look at the CRM industry, it's pretty mature. It's been there for years. It's been there for at least 15 years. If you look at companies like Salesforce in itself is $150+ billion company, and CRM is very, very, very well matured. If you look at the money coming in, it's not that we only know, and especially in the digital space, and you and I have worked in this space for quite some time. In the digital space, it isn't that you only know every dollar that comes in. You know the story of the dollar before it became a dollar.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? Like, the funnel. Like you
Yeah.
scientifically know and understand the funnel before the dollar. So you know the prospect and you target prospect, and then that prospect becomes a customer, and then you retain that customer. But when it comes to spending, which is the opposite side, okay, you can have you of course you have your accounting system, you have your ERP system, but you don't really have detailed spend management that covers the whole thing. And the reason why is because of the disconnect that happens between internal procurement and external messages and gathering back quotations and stuff like this. And it's procurement in general is complex. So what Penny does is basically think of Penny for your spending is what CRM for your revenue. So Penny for your spending is what CRM is for your revenue. And that's how we empower. That's how we empower organizations.
And so and so I understand the value of getting that transparency and visibility. Now, do you think that the Middle East as a region, let's take, you know, SMEs, for example, if we were to generalize, and maybe we shouldn't, but if we were to generalize,
Yeah.
do you think the SME community is really thinking about this problem? Do you think they are aware? Is it something, because I assume yes, but I mean, I look at my
Yeah.
business, I look at the economy that we're living through, I look at the circumstances that we're going through, and I'm being very diligent about what we spend. So it's top of mind for me, and maybe because I've been around you guys for so long that it's top of mind. Maybe you've rubbed off on me. But do you think that the community as a whole thinks about this problem?
The answer, in my opinion, is yes, if you give them a simple, logical tool, right? So if we think about it, if we think about it as a complex problem and therefore needs a complex tool, then probably you're not going to resonate with SMEs.
Yeah.
But I don't think any SME owner, if you tell them, hey, here's a tool that is so simple to use, that's not going to add much on you, and it's fully integrated with your ecosystem, and man, at the end of the year, you're going to know everything. You're going to have data driven of everything. You
Yeah.
know exactly how much you spent. Of course, you know how much you spent because you have an accounting system. Everybody has an accounting system. But if you can track every order, every request, who requested it, who approved it, when, why, which supplier, what quotation they provide, everything, and you can do spend analysis on that. I don't think anyone can say no, because it entails saving.
Yeah.
And I think if you give logical tool that gives you as an SME savings, I think the industry is ready for it in the Middle East. But we are out to figure that out.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's super interesting, and I'm excited to see how you guys kind of grow and how 2021, you know, comes around. I'm really curious to see what that growth line looks like for Penny, because I absolutely think that you are solving a critical problem. You are shining a light on an area where people don't really pay attention to, and it can, especially in this time, I think the timing is perfect. It can bring about the difference between, you know, successful and unsuccessful companies in my mind, right? And so that type of diligence and that type of tool in this era, I think, is quite critical. Now, you're about a year into working on Penny. You're
Yeah.
at least
Working on Penny, it's more than a year. Yeah.
And so you're a year into it. And so I just want to get your perspective. Like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm a startup guy too, and 2020 has been one heck of a year for lots of reasons. How's the journey? What have you learned so far in building this company that you didn't know before?
Oh my God. I can, do we have time?
We
Well,
gotta keep that under it.
yeah. I've learned so much. I have started a company before. I've started actually a
Yeah.
few businesses before, so I have the experience of. I've learned a lot. I've made so many mistakes before, and I've learned a lot. And I think the experience of my previous experiences and the work that we had in Kareem definitely added so much for us to avoid a lot of mistakes. So to be fair, Penny, Penny is different than any other businesses that I started before, because sort of like I have the unfair advantage of knowledge.
Yeah.
an unfair advantage of experience. So instead of starting here, you sort of like avoid all these mistakes and start here. But then, of course, as an entrepreneur, you always start with confidence that I know what I'm doing. I know this is gonna work, but then it never works that way. It never
Never.
works that way. So if there's a few things that I can tell you, starting from a few lessons that I have learned from the experience with Penny. But again, I also gathered this experience from my previous experiences. First of all, is that entrepreneurship is lonely. When we started this podcast, Chris, you said founder, and I corrected you and said co-founder. And the
Yeah.
reason I care so much about this is because I really think entrepreneurship is a lonely journey, and I think having doing it together as co-founders, equal co-founders, I think it adds so much. It really adds so much. And trust me, I've I've done it. I've tried both before. It's incomparable. It's incomparable. Um, I think the having a co-founder is very, very, very important for so many reasons. It's not only about the loneliness of entrepreneurship and having a companion, but you also have, so you know, Chris, that we have 4 co-founders in Penny.
Yeah.
And I think this is amazing because it's never my decision, by the way. It's always, why? Because we're not a company yet. We are a startup. We're not a scale up. And if you're a startup, you are by nature a project, right? So I think all of us combined, and we have our own differences, and that's how it balances. If it was only me, I would have done so many mistakes. But my co-founders come from different backgrounds, and we don't want to sort of like, we don't want to make it one-man show, and we don't want to all be this all same-minded. We're not same-minded. We're not. I think we're not like-minded. We're like-hearted, but not like-minded. And I think lesson number 1 is have co-founders. Really matters a lot. Lesson number 2, which is something that I have learned from my experience. You don't have a company, you have a project. So make sure you bring superstars. If you, the talent, if you don't bring people who are superstars, if you don't focus on bringing the top caliber and the top talent, it's just not gonna, you're gonna struggle. So I think the team, focus on the team building is very important. Number 3, I think if you're starting a startup, a tech startup in particular, regardless what that industry is, in my opinion, you're going to, at the startup stage, you're going to go through 3 phases. And I'm not talking about at the scale up stage. I'm talking about the startup stage until you get to the scale up stage. At the startup stage, from idea to, oh my God, we're going to scale this now, you're going to go through 3 stages. The first stage is the foundation, which is the stage in which you are putting together the team, formalizing the idea, and fundraising. And at this stage, as a founder, I think what you need to do is you spend 80% of your time doing 2 things: fundraising, team building. Really, like, and if you do this right, you're going to have the right set of investors and the right team. And the team together will help you do the other 20%. So I would say 80% or so, at least the majority of your time should be spent on doing these 2 things: fundraising and team building. Do it tirelessly. It's going to be exhausting. It's going to be hard. It's really, really hard to do these 2 things, but it's very important. The second stage is when you put together your initial team and you have closed your round, you enter the second stage, which is basically you're now in the field. You've built your beta product, you've built your alpha and beta, and now you're in the field. And now you kick things off. You announced the fundraising, you celebrated it, everybody celebrated, good, now get to work. And at this stage, I think you should spend you should spend 80% of your time doing one thing. Talk to customers. Talk, listen, iterate. Or actually, listen, learn, iterate. And this is the only thing you need to do because you have one KPI. Now you have good money, you have good investors, you have an awesome team. All of you have one KPI, which is basically get to product market fit.
Yeah.
Of course, all of us as entrepreneurs, we're so optimistic. We all think that, oh man, we're gonna hit the product market fit as soon as we
No
go to market,
problem.
right? No problem. Like the confidence is speaking, and we all have this confidence. I had this confidence, but as soon as you go to the field, you learn that, oh, there's demand, but
We don't have exactly what they want. Yeah.
we don't have exactly what they want. So I think you should focus on one thing, 80% of your time on learning, listening, iterating until you get to the product market fit. Once you get to the product market fit, you spend 80% of your time doing two things, fundraising and team building. You go back to square one. When you feel like, okay, this is scalable now, we've learned this is scalable, we get to the product market fit, we get to the scalability level, go back to square one. Spend most of your time fundraising and team building because you're going to have to grow your team and you're going to have to raise funds. So this is, I think, my learnings.
I think I mean, first of all, thanks. I think that's super crystal clear. I think that's, priceless kind of really structured kind of step-by-step kind of knowledge that you shared. I love the first thing you said, to go back a little bit. One, you said co-founders are everything. I think I completely agree with you. I think if I were to kind of, open my heart up a little bit and give you kind of my side of the story. We run a small boutique advisory, and I'm the sole founder, and I can tell you that I have somebody I can rely on, but still sometimes I wish I had that co-founder that felt the burden on my shoulders, the responsibility, because the responsibility of entrepreneurship is not just the success of the business or the idea, but the people that you've promised and you've convinced to bring on board. And so
Absolutely.
When it comes to the pressure that you feel, it's not only, oh man, I sold a story, I came up with a vision, and now I need to make it happen. That's the tangible, succeeding business, pressure. But then there's the human piece to it. And I think people always discount or forget how heavy that is, right? So you went and you convinced, your other co-founders or people to join your team. You've convinced a bunch of people to make a bet on you and your story. And now you're responsible for people. You're not just responsible for a business idea. You're responsible for people, their livelihood,
and that's
their
the
motivation.
Heaviest thing, right?
Oh, it's such oh my God, to wake up every day and be like, oh my God, this has to work. Not because of the idea, not because of the business. It's because so-and-so is depending on me. So-and-so's family is depending on me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that pressure as an entrepreneur is often forgotten. It's a person pressure, right? So when you talk about loneliness, that's what I think of. And I think you're absolutely right. After that, you said, it's all about talent. Now I want to talk to you about talent. I'd love to be super optimistic, but it's still one of the hardest things for me to find, anywhere. It's not even a regional thing anymore. It's finding talent as a whole for me is the most difficult part of our business. And when I look at my business, I'm sure it's the same as your business. I'm only able to scale if I can find people. And it's not just a question of capacity. It's a question of capability, right?
Right.
It's correlated, almost parallel, right? So it's like, yes, you need money to get things to go, but more importantly, that money goes to a resource, and that resource is people to build things. And so what's your kind of experience so far? How are you finding talent? Because I think this isn't a conversation we always have, and I would just love to get your perspective in terms of how you think you can solve that problem as you scale your business.
Right. I think You're absolutely right, Chris. It is really, really hard. And if these two things, team building and fundraising, were easy, then life would be much easier for entrepreneurs, right? It is really, really hard. And most people get it wrong. And most companies get it wrong. And it's quite unfortunate. I think if you are early stage startup, this is like the number one you should focus on. If you're a company, if you're a big company, and if you have people who are not as talented, then they're going to sort of like go with the flow and go unnoticed, go under the. But if you are a small company, one bad hire could kill you,
Destroy your business.
and especially if you are a startup. I think the way to get talent really has a lot to do with the type of business, what type of business you are. I think, let me give you an example. Let's say that I open a shop, and my dear father, God bless his soul, had a shop, and I grew up in selling in the market with my dad, and he had a small shop, very modest shop, that sells faucets, and that's it. That's his business. He was very passionate about it, and I grew up with my dad, helping my dad. Even when I was like 8 years old, I was selling and helping my dad. My brother Majid and I actually were always together in this. If you look at this type of business, it's really hard to attract talent, right? Because like get the job done, like hire somebody to sell, and it's really hard to attract talent. If you scale it a little bit, and if you say that you're in a business where you are the distributor of all the faucets in the region, you're more likely to get now more talented people in accounting and stuff like this. If you are building a business in something like penny, right, and tech, you are solving a very big problem to a lot of people using tech and innovation. The purpose side of it matters.
Yeah.
So I can't compare myself with the faucet distributor, and I can't compare myself with the faucet shop, because we don't have the same advantage. You see what I mean?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
a company, I think the nature of your business will help you attract more talent. So I think number one, if you have an innovative business, and if you're solving a bigger problem, you're more likely to attract talents, because they will be more excited and more interested to work in your company. Number two, I think really, really good talented people will not leave their jobs because you're paying higher. It's not going to work, right? So this is something that is so obvious, yet a lot of people miss it. They say that, oh, we're going to pay them well, and we're going to attract people from this and this and that. No, dude, no. If I am a good talent, and I'm working in company X, and I'm really loving it, and I'm doing really well, and I'm valuable at that company, why would I come to you because you pay me like a few extra dollars? No, that's not how it works.
Yeah.
I think talent, I think good talents will come and join you because of something bigger, because of a bigger purpose, because of a bigger vision. So I think that, of course you have to pay them right, no doubt. But all I'm saying is that this is just the basic thing. Paying them right is just the basic thing. I think they need to be sold in the mission, they need to be sold in the vision, and they need to have a purpose, and they need to be part of building something. And allow me to just close with this one. Closing this point with this one. Being part is not something that you tell them like, hey, come build it, you're part of it. Give them stock options. If you say that you're part of building this, make them part of building this. Give them stock options. And I think you should be very, very generous as a founder of giving up a considerable percentage of your own ownership in the company to the team, because that's the only way they can build a great company, by becoming partners. So yeah, that's what I know.
So I don't disagree with anything you said. I completely agree. But there's one piece that I think a lot of people overlook, and I think even you overlook because it's so innate in you, right? And even when you have a game-changing, super impactful, amazing vision or business or idea or purpose, your ability to sell it is sometimes more important than
Yeah,
the story itself, right? And I think a lot of people forget that is that a, the job of a team leader of a startup or CEO or whatever you want to call it, the guy who takes that leadership position is selling the story. He's the
right.
storyteller. And so from my experiences, I absolutely agree with you. Like you can't overpay. First of all, you're a startup. You can't just pay people more because it's not a sustainable way of attracting talent.
Yeah,
Number one, because you don't have money. Okay. The second one
right.
is you might have a very compelling story, but if they're really good talent that's motivated by that already, they're probably working in an organization that already might have an amazingly impactful and amazing vision or purpose as well, right? So if they're
Indeed.
those types of people, they might already be sold on some other vision. And so fundamentally, I think I completely agree with you, but I think if I look at you and I know you quite well, I think one thing that allows you and successful entrepreneurs to attract the game-changing talent at the beginning is the entrepreneur's ability to have conviction, passion, authenticity, and that storytelling kind of ability, because that's all they're doing. They're joining a great mission, a great purpose, but more importantly they're joining Iyad and Majid, etc., right? And
Right.
so for me, if I look back at my career and the different companies and businesses that I was a part of and stuff like that, the most successful ones were the ones that had the compelling story and vision and person and purpose and
Right.
and mission of the business, but also the way that they told the story was just so compelling that you just couldn't refuse, right? It
Hmm.
was, and
True.
you drank that Kool-Aid and you believed in it so much and it just became part
Yeah.
of you. And then it wasn't even Kool-Aid, it was like it was what you lived for, right? And it was,
Right.
and you
Right.
absolutely believed in it. I think people really overlook like the importance of being able to sell and rally troops, right? And
Indeed.
I think that's fundamentally one of the most underrated, under talked about kind of things, right? Like if you look at the greats, you look at Steve Jobs, man, you look at, Elon Musk, they're just fantastic
Amazing storytellers.
storytellers and they're so captivating. When they speak, you listen. How they speak,
Right.
how they deliver, they're the best hype men of our generation, right?
Absolutely.
And so I think of when you, I don't think you probably recognize it in yourself, but I think one of the things that might have so far played to your advantage is your ability to tell these stories, right? And to sell your story and do it in an authentic, real way. So I think if anybody wants to start a business and they don't have that conviction and ability to deliver those types of messages, that it's very hard to attract talent. Very, very hard.
It would be. It
Yeah.
would be. I mean, if you think about it, storytelling is the oldest business in the history of mankind, right? It's
Absolutely, absolutely. No, and it's a very hard talent to master, and I think
right.
those interpersonal skills, those narration skills. I think those are things that people really don't think about, right? Um,
True. Very
I,
true.
I wanted to ask you. So you're fundamentally a B2B kind of SaaS solution, right? And
Correct.
you've been on the consumer side of the world for quite a long time. I wanted to ask you, and if you could share this with people who listen to this eventually, what's the biggest difference between B2C and B2B so far for you? What would be the kind of difference in
Oh,
approach, if any, right?
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. No, I mean, absolutely. Totally different, completely different animals, first of all.
yeah,
Like you said, I've been in B2C, started with e-commerce in the US and then moved to Kareem and now in Penny. But I must say that our co-founder Majid is the person who really taught us all about the B2B world because he's been in B2B. He's
yeah,
been like fighting that battle for quite some time. So he understands B2B. I think the difference between B2B and B2C, number one, and I'll say it in a very, very simple sort of language. B2B, it's easier to create, or let me put it, B2C is sexier, much, much sexier than B2B, because I can name you now any brand B2C that's well-known brand, and you might know it. I
Yeah.
can name you a $50 billion brand B2B, and you probably don't even know it.
Yeah.
Right. And that's the reality, because it's not touching the consumers, it's not touching the heart of the consumers, right? So
Yeah.
first of all, you must know that it is very, very important as a B2B to build an awesome brand.
Yeah.
But it's different than B2C. It's not going to be a household brand, and it's okay. Penny will never be Kareem as a brand, period. And that's how it should be. That's how it should be. I don't want Penny to be a cool brand that everybody and his grandma knows. That's not what we want Penny to do, because it doesn't matter. What you want Penny to, of course, we want Penny to be much bigger than Kareem as a brand, and that is
Sure.
the vision. And our vision, as you know, is to build a global brand
Yeah.
out of our region. And this is the plan. This is the path we are going after. But even when we achieve that, not everybody and his grandma are gonna know Penny.
Yeah.
And if you spend so much time in the B2C world, you're going to find that a bit annoying, because like the ego will kick up, like, how can you not know about us, right? But that's okay. So that's number one. Number two, the customer acquisition in B2B is a completely different journey than
Yeah.
B2C. First of all, your customer as a B2B is much more expensive, and it's going to take longer time, and you're going to have to put a lot of effort. In B2C, you could afford to, acquire hundreds of thousands of customers and lose tens of thousands of customers, and sort of like, to use just numbers, right? Like you're looking
Yeah.
at the numbers. In B2B, and especially at the beginning, it doesn't work this way. You're going to have to work with certain number of customers, or you're going to have to give them all your time, passion, and attention. And losing a customer in B2B, especially at the beginning, is very, very expensive, almost detrimental. So with B2C, for example, if I created an app delivering shawarma, for example, if I am late for your shawarma and you cancel, it's bad for me and it's unfortunate, but it's not the end of the world,
Yeah.
right? If I am solving a procurement for B2B in a multi-billion-dollar company, and if they cancel, it's a big deal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's totally
Fundamentally
different.
different beast.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, today when you look at kind of the landscape of, let's say, more widely known B2B brands, and I really want to get your perspective on this. And obviously you and me have had this conversation to some extent, but really curious to see where you stand. A lot of the brands that are most well-known that are B2B brands are brands who have offered a B2C like tone of voice and style,
Yeah,
and have
indeed.
offered some sort of super accessible freemium product to get the mass scale,
Right.
which we all know is just an acquisition funnel, right? But what's your position on this whole, freemium, B2C like styling,
Yeah.
tone of voice? Because you think of Slack, you think of
Right.
you think of Monday.com, you think of there's so many brands right now, new brands, more established brands, etc. That have this quirky B2C feel, are B2B brands, but have made themselves super accessible. What's kind of like your
Right.
positioning on that, and how are you
Well,
doing
I
that
think
at Penny?
I think I think if you want to really know my opinion, look no farther than Penny.
Yeah,
I I think I'm a huge believer in this. I'm a huge
yeah,
believer in the consumerization of B2B, and consumerization is not only, and I know, Chris, you are a big believer in this as well.
yeah,
Consumerization of B2B is not only in the tone of voice, but rather in the UI UX.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
number one, right? So the UI UX, the experience has to be consumerized. The experience has to be a B2C like. And in terms of a brand and tone of voice, I'm absolutely with it. If you look at even our blog, we released the blog last week, but we spent so much time like
Yeah.
fixing the tone of voice, like back and forth with the writer about the tone of voice, because we really want to make sure that the tone of voice matches the tone of voice of Penny. And I think at the end of the day, if you look at the population pyramid in many countries, and I know of my own country in Saudi Arabia, if you look at the population pyramid, man, it's so obvious. The millennials are going to be the one making decisions,
Yeah.
in government, making decisions in companies, making decisions in non-profit, making decisions in all kind of aspects.
Yeah.
The millennials are the ones who are going to be using your software. The millennials are the ones who are going to be evaluating your software. So if you really build the software for the older generation that looks like Oracle or looks like SAP, you're really out of touch.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. And when you think of the, that approach, you look at, even if you look at industries closer to you, things like, what were they called? QuickBooks, for example, things that
Right.
were, accounting solutions that really took a consumerized approach to how they did business. It was implanted in my brain when I was, not even using it, years ago, because it's absolutely a brand that I recognize. And now that I've, matured a little bit and started, building my own businesses, then I obviously refer to those kind of best practices or those types of brands or those types of solutions, which is absolutely what you're saying.
Exactly.
I think I'd love to move on to a more localized kind of topic with you. Obviously you're talking about Saudi Arabia. You're on the phone with me on Zoom from Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is a country that I grew up in, and that today looks fundamentally different on
Yeah.
certain facets. In terms of how the culture has evolved kind of quickly, how the economy kind of pivoted a lot, the investments that have been put into the country. So as a startup, starting a company in Saudi Arabia, what would you say kind of are the main advantages today for somebody like you?
I think, first of all, it's super exciting. I don't think it has been any other time that's more exciting to start a company in Saudi than this time.
Agreed.
Especially tech company, right?
Yeah.
Super, super exciting. 5 years ago, the ecosystem was not even existing.
Yeah.
Right now, it's flourishing on a rapid scale. If you look at, I think Magnet released the report for Saudi a few weeks back or a few months back. And you look at the reports and you see the good growth that is happening in the ecosystem and in the VC world. It's amazing. It's amazing. So I think starting a company in this time in Saudi, and not only in Saudi, even in the larger MENA region, is like, back in the late 90s in Silicon Valley. I hope there will not be a bubble, but the exciting part, the growth part of it is there. I think to me, the way I see it is that there are so many advantages. One, if you really solving a big problem, and if you're building something that is big and meaningful, you're going to have tremendous support that a few years back you wouldn't be able to get. Personally, I am overwhelmed by the support that we are receiving in Penny from multiple places, PCs, I can't name it, but the support, and most of it, by the way, is sort of emotional support, but it matters a lot. It really does.
Yeah. I think on the VC landscape, for sure, I think we've seen that kind of mushroom like crazy regionally and especially in Saudi Arabia. And we have even some old colleagues that are now part of VCs in Saudi Arabia. And we've seen that kind of ecosystem kind of develop. But I guess more specifically is, what's your kind of view on the digitization of Saudi Arabia? I think if I look back, 5-6 years, digital tools and solutions as a whole for consumers or businesses wasn't really something that, a lot of people kind of were investing in. And now all of a sudden it's like everything is on turbo, right? So everything is digitizing. Transport, food, education, finance, procurement, et cetera, et cetera. And so Saudi Arabia, to me, is not just an amazing place because of the resources and the support to build businesses, but the market is
The
also,
market is
the
crazy.
market wants it, right? It's like,
Yeah,
give me the solutions, like come on, like solve this problem, use technology for this, use technology for that. And it's
right,
whether it's companies or consumers,
right.
it's overwhelming almost. It's almost like, come on, guys, more companies, more
Yeah,
solutions. You know what I mean?
yeah,
So I'm actually super, and I actually think as an emerging market, the Gulf in general is really exciting because it's almost like they're leapfrogging, right? And
right.
so it's almost like what the mobile phone did to landlines, right?
Exactly.
It's like, why would you, implement this type of a product if you have this type of a product that's 10 times
Right,
better, right? And it's almost like
right.
the Middle East is saying, hey, this is our moment. We have the resources, we have the ambition.
Yeah.
So why don't we kind of leapfrog our society using technology so that we're at the forefront, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Look, I think one, the MENA region in general, I think is supply constraint. And this is something that is very important for entrepreneurs to understand that the region is supply constraint, not demand constraint. If you are providing the right tool, you don't have to worry about customers. You don't have to worry about demand. You just need to solve problems. If you look at the region overall, and if we reflect back in our experience in Kareem, if we go to cities that have no good public transportation and all of this, that is a problem for the city, but it's an opportunity for the entrepreneur. And if you look at MENA region in general, it has a lot of problems. Then it has a lot of opportunities and so many problems to solve. In Saudi, I think as a nation we are tech savvy. We're highly, highly tech savvy. We are so quick in adopting a new technology, and that's amazing. That's amazing because it creates a market for us. The downside of it, not the downside, but what I think should be doing in Saudi is we should be tech savvy not only on the demand side, but we should be tech savvy on the supply side. And unfortunately, this is not where we are at right now. This is where we are heading, but it's going to be a long way, but it's inevitable. We have to do this.
But why do you think that we're lagging on the supply side?
I think education is an important part of it. So if you look in Saudi, people are highly, highly tech savvy. I read once that in terms of the usage of gigabyte per capita, we are I think one of the, I don't recall exactly, but one of the top 3 or 5 countries in the world. Even young children are tech savvy. They're using apps. They're using their smartphones all the time. But when it comes to the talent, the programming, for example, talent, it's not there. It's not part. It hasn't been at least part of our education. And what I hope to see in Saudi is that yes, we should be tech savvy on the demand side, on the consumer side, but we should be tech savvy on the supply side as well. I think we should pay more attention to teaching programming and teaching coding in our schools. And I think young people should be coders. And I think this is what we should be investing in for the future of Saudi.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's something that sometimes is a bit kind of underwhelming in the region, is that the will is there, the resources is there, the movement is there, the momentum is there. But
Yeah.
from an educational kind of ground level, I still see a lot of gaps. And I think that'll come. I think that takes time. I don't think those types of solutions are overnight. And
Yeah.
I think hopefully with this edutech revolution happening right now, hopefully that will play a role in it as well. Um, I'm super kind of, I'm trying to reflect on your journey so far, since you started Penny. And we go back and forth. I think you and I quite a bit
Yeah.
on kind of the brand, obviously, because we had a role in there. And
Yeah.
I'm super curious so far when you compare yourself to the competition in your space, right? And
Mm.
I don't want to name names. Let's not name some brands. But what do you think has so far been kind of the hook for you, the magic sauce that's made Penny Penny? When you think about
Yeah.
the customers that you're going after, what do you think is going to be that one thing that makes you more successful than everybody else?
I think my answer would not, I have to put a disclaimer that my answer would still be, most of what I say is still theory because we're at the early stage of
Sure.
our company. So I really can answer this in a more concrete way next year. With that being said, what we have witnessed so far is that the brand that we've built in Penny is resonating more with people. So we have a lot of, we have all these companies reaching out to us and asking, and we haven't been reaching out to them. You know that since we launched, we haven't done any outbound at all. It's all 100% inbound, meaning that we have not been reaching out, not physically, not digitally. People are coming to us and requesting from us. And this is intentional because we're sort of testing and we want to learn from our customer. We will really want to pay attention and serve our customers. And I think, how would they hear about us? If we haven't reached out to them, if we haven't done any digital, how would they know about us? And why would they reach to us?
Yeah.
The reason, I think, is having a solid, awesome brand. And a lot of startups sort of overlook this. They say we're going to focus on the product and we're going to pay attention to the brand later. And that's a huge mistake in my opinion, because if it wasn't for the brand, we would be having zero lead and zero customers right now.
I find that so kind of refreshing for obvious reasons. Obviously, we're in the branding business ourselves, right? So, but I think that's so true. When I think about you, is from day one, you've always believed in the power of a brand.
Absolutely.
And if you think about all the conversations that we had along this podcast, is we spoke about talent, we spoke about the problem that you want to solve, we spoke about attracting money, attracting talent, etc., and the journey, and all of that kind of always, if you go backwards and if you kind of backtrack, that goes back to the brand, right? And so
right.
But fundamentally, your understanding of branding, to be very honest, is not common, especially in startups, right? Even when we go back to the kind of brands that we were a part of,
yeah,
there was investment in the mission, there was investment in the purpose, there was articulation in that, but the brand itself is something that I've been quite pleasantly surprised about the way you've approached Penny, is that you fundamentally believe in the brand more than anything else, in terms of you need that as your foundation almost. Now, where does that come from, and why is that so important to you?
Kareem.
Yeah.
No, but it's true, right? It's true. I think I've learned so much from Kareem, and it wouldn't be fair for me not to shed the light on that.
Yeah.
I think one of the main lessons that I learned in Kareem, and I would like to share it with entrepreneurs in the region and around the world, is the power of a brand. It is very, very important, very, very powerful. I think entrepreneurs often overlook the things that are very, very, very important because they don't seem important. And that's always the case, right? The very important things don't seem important at the beginning. For example, your brands, your culture, your values, your vision, your mission. You see entrepreneurs say that, oh, we're running day to day, we don't have time for this culture thing, right? We're running a business, we don't have to. And that's crazy. That's really crazy, because that could kill your company. And if you look at, let me reflect back on our time in Kareem. And as you know, I was a GM as well as a marketing director. So no wonder why that I have a love for the brand. Sometimes the sky would be falling. We don't know what's gonna happen next week for whatever reason, business competition, regulatory, whatever. We still had the time to meet with people, do all hands, do cultural things, have fun. If we act in a way that we don't have time for this, right? The sky is falling, we don't have time for this. Guess what? The sky will be falling all the time. And if you continue not caring about the important things, if you don't care about the brand, if you don't care about the culture, if you don't care about the values, I'm sorry, but you're not gonna build a great company. You're gonna build an okay company.
I'm listening to you speak, and I'm just so happy. I think it makes me so happy to have people like you kind of building companies that believe in that, because I think fundamentally the role of the brands in our region are not just to build successful companies, but to move our region forward. Our brands have such a
Absolutely.
responsibility. When we think of the impact of global brands like Apple and Google, et cetera, we forget that the impacts that they've had on education, on inspiration, on moving forward,
Indeed.
and so the more pennies and Karims we have in the Middle East, I think the more our society as a whole will progress, right?
Absolutely.
The will is one thing, resources is another thing, but that inspiration that brands can bring, that's everything, right? So
Absolutely.
I'm so happy to hear you say something like that. So I'm
Yeah.
really, really proud to be a part of the journey, both at Kareem and with Penny so far. So I'm super, super happy with that. Iyad, we've been talking for quite a long time. I really love the energy and time that you gave us. Um,
Thanks, man.
Obviously, I'm going to talk to you like two times, a week for the next, year or so. So I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and I want to have you back on in a year so that we can check in on the progress and the story of Penny. But thank you for being on Ducket, and
Awesome.
see you soon.
Thanks for having me.